You know, World War II is just filled with these absolutely incredible stories of bravery and sacrifice. But I bet one of the most unbelievable tales you'll ever hear doesn't involve a man at all. Nope. It's about a soldier who drank beer, smoked cigarettes, and helped carry ammunition, all while being a 500-pound Syrian brown bear. This is the honest-to-goodness true story of Wojtek, the bear who went to war.
Come on, just for a second. What pops into your head? A decorated general pointing at a map? A pilot in a cockpit? Maybe a soldier storming a beach? We all have a pretty clear image, right? A specific idea of what a hero looks like. We'll get ready to have that idea completely turned on its head. Because for the men of the 22nd Transport Company, this was their brother in arms. This was their hero. His name was Wojtek, and believe me, his journey is one of the most heartwarming and, frankly, bizarre stories in all of military history.
So the big question is, how on earth does a bear end up in the Polish army? Well, his story doesn't start on some battlefield. It starts on a mountainside in Iran, with a group of men who were in many ways just as lost as he was.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1942. A group of Polish soldiers are making their way through the Middle East. They come across a local boy who's found this tiny orphaned bear cub. Its mother had been shot by hunters. The soldiers, they buy the cub. And just like that, this little bear's life is changed forever. But to really get this story, you have to understand who these soldiers were.
See, these weren't just any soldiers. They were survivors. They were former prisoners of war, just released from the brutal Soviet gulags up in Siberia to go join the Allied war effort. These men had lost everything: their homes, their country, their families. In a lot of ways, they were orphans too.
And so, they adopted this little guy. They started feeding him condensed milk, and they often used an old vodka bottle as a makeshift baby bottle. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. For these men who had lost so much, caring for this little creature, it was like a way to get back a piece of their own humanity. They named him Wojtek, which means smiling warrior. But Wojtek, well, he didn't stay small for long, not even close. Thanks to a diet of fruit, marmalade, honey, and a pretty steady supply of beer, his favorite, he grew and grew, and pretty soon that tiny cub was a massive 500-pound bear and a totally inseparable member of the company.
And I want you to be clear, Wojtek wasn't some pet they kept locked in a cage. No way. He was one of the guys. He lived right there with the soldiers, he traveled with them in their trucks, and he developed a personality that was just as big as he was.
He basically just mimicked his human buddies in almost every way. One of his caretakers, a guy named Dimitar Shavlugo, remembered that Wojtek would actually take a puff of a lit cigarette and then just swallow it. And like I said, beer was his absolute favorite drink, which he'd chug straight from the bottle.
His daily life was just filled with these antics that became the stuff of legend. He loved to wrestle with the soldiers, a match he always won, obviously. He'd chase after oranges the men used for grenade practice. He'd crash local parties and dances. He was just this incredible morale booster for these guys who are a long, long way from home.
And he was smart, too. During their time in the sweltering heat of the Middle East, Wojtek fell in love with taking showers. He actually figured out how to operate them all by himself, which, was great for him, but a bit of a problem for the company when his long showers started causing water shortages.
But Wojtek's story isn't just about a bunch of funny anecdotes. No, it was during one of the absolute bloodiest battles of the war that he would cement his place in history, not just as a mascot, but as a genuine hero.
We're talking about the Battle of Monte Cassino. It was a brutal, grueling, awful fight. And Wojtek's unit, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, had this incredibly dangerous and physically exhausting job of keeping the frontline artillery supplied with these heavy crates of ammunition, all while under constant enemy fire. Now, this is where legend and reality start to intertwine a little bit. The story that gets told is that Wojtek saw his friends struggling and he just started picking up these 100-pound crates of artillery shells and carrying them to the guns. Now, veterans later clarified that he mostly carried empty crates and used shells, kind of mimicking what they were doing, but honestly, in the end, it didn't really matter. Just the sight of their bear, tirelessly working alongside them, was an absolutely incredible inspiration. And that inspiration? It became his official legacy. The men were so proud of what Wojtek did at Monte Cassino that the 22nd Company actually changed its official insignia. It became an image of a bear standing on its hind legs, carrying an artillery shell. It was an image of their friend, Wojtek's. In fact, and if you think that's wild, get this. To get around regulations that said you couldn't have mascots on British transport ships heading to Italy, The company had officially enlisted him. I'm serious. He was given the rank of private, his own paybook, and a serial number. He was, and every official since that mattered, a soldier in the Polish army.
So, when the war finally ended, a whole new problem came up. The soldiers were free, but what do you do with a 500-pound combat veteran bear? His journey, believe it or not, wasn't over yet. The men of the 22nd Company were demobilized, but they couldn't go home. Poland wasn't free anymore. It was under Soviet control. And they absolutely refused to send Wojtek there. They were afraid the communist government would use their beloved bear as some kind of propaganda symbol, the exact opposite of everything they'd just fought for.
So Wojtek, along with some of his closest caretakers, settled down on a farm in Scotland. He lived out his days there and became a total local celebrity. His old army buddies would come visit, and they'd hop the fence to speak to him in Polish and toss him cigarettes, just like the old days. He passed away in 1963, but his legend lives on. In 2015, a beautiful bronze statue was unveiled in Edinburgh, forever remembering the soldier bear.
So what does this all mean? I mean, this story is so much more than just a quirky piece of history, right? For a group of men who had lost literally everything, an orphan bear became their family. He became a source of joy, a reminder that there's still good in the world, even in the absolute darkest of times. He was, in the end, their smiling warrior.